Yeah, so 2014 was a crazy year and things only got worse after that, but remarkably worse. Uh, for me, somebody who looks at research, and I've looked at research from the first, at least semester, let's say, from the first semester that I started graduate studies, that was in 1992, I believe. I was just a research fiend. I used to skip class. So I was in graduate school, but like once I got into the idea of research and like looking at data, I would skip class to hang out in the library and photocopy articles. Very few of us have done that. I know that I did. I'm quite sure that Jeffrey Bland did. I know for sure that Alan Gaby did the same thing because he used to talk about it a little bit and how he used to spend hours just going through journals, and I did the same thing, just going through journals and going through journals, like page by page. We're not talking like digital searches because this was 91 or 92. Digital searches really didn't exist back then. So for those of us who were looking at research, pre-internet, we did it manually. We spent hours in the library going through journals, starting at volume 1 and going just turning pages, looking for anything related to nutrition or anything of interest. And that's a distinction that a lot of people don't realize because they don't have the experience. And the difference that I'm present to is the distinction between searching versus just exploring and browsing. So for example, like if you go to a bookstore, you'll find stuff in a bookstore that you would never encounter if you go to a digital bookstore or if you look online for something. If you look online for something, you've already narrowed the field because you're looking for something specific, right? If I do a search, see how this collar keeps popping up? Drives me nuts. If you do a search for something, or if I do a search for something online, I've already limited the field of reality into whatever my search parameters are. If I look for autoimmune disease and vitamin D, well, guess what? I'm going to find autoimmune articles and vitamin D articles, right? If I just go to the library or if I just go to a bookstore, which I used to do, even when I still lived in Houston, I used to go to Half Price Books and just look, because I used to go to the Half Price Books location, which was right next to the Texas Medical Center. So I would go there and just be, inundated, so to speak, with all of these old medical books. But again, the point that I'm making is searching for something, by definition, you know what you're looking for, and you are searching for, 1 plus 2 plus 3 or whatever. You're searching for something specific. If you go to a library or you go to a bookstore and you're just browsing, you never know what you're going to find, right? And so that actually, if you do it enough, eventually you'll find stuff that no one else may have seen in decades because it's an old book. I've got lots of old books. Even my mouse pad, for example. I mean, this is an old book that I got discarded from a medical library. It's called The Medical Trust Unmasked. And what it is, this is true. I mean, look at this. This is what I use for my mouse pad. You can see it's kind of worn out, but it's the perfect size for a mouse pad, so that's what I use. But basically what this is photocopies of documents from the American Medical Association of how they tried to destroy, the practice of nutrition and how they tried to destroy chiropractic, for example. And these are their documents and kind of false, what would be called these days misinformation or false information or fake news or whatever. So this is just an example. It happens to be on my desk because, like I said, I use this as my mouse pad. But it's an example of going to bookstores, going to libraries, and searching for things that you would never even know existed. So you wouldn't even know to really search for them. You just find them when you go to a bookstore or a library, instead of doing a digital search where you're only going to find the things that match the terms that you already have in your head. So anyway, as I was starting to say, from the time I started studying anything at the graduate level, actually a little bit before that, but certainly by the time 1992 rolled around and I was in graduate school for real, I was just a research fiend. And so the perspective that provides me is that I was able to notice deviations from the norm very early. When I saw the language in research was changing, a lot of times I or people like me would look at an article and say, well, that's kind of an outlier. But the field, so to speak, of medicine and science was still legit. In 2014 up to 2018, 2019, things were just going off the rails.